I'm Dr. Ryan DeBell from The Movement Fix. This is Movement Fix Monday. We're here again at MedTA with Chris Johnson of Zarin PT and Performance, and what we want to talk about in this video is the importance of cadence in running, especially when you consider loading at the knee, at the ankle, at the foot, all that stuff, as well as take a look at the app that you guys have been working so hard on to help people monitor cadence, change their cadence for the benefit of changing how the body's loaded, pain, efficiency, etc. So can you tell us, let me give you the mic, and can you tell us a little bit more about the app? We'll go ahead.
So thanks again for having me on. It's always fun to connect with you when you're not being a world traveler. So I get graced with your presence when you're stateside. So yeah, there's so much research coming out on cadence, also known as step rate. And the thing that's important to appreciate is that cadence is a means to reduce someone's step length. All right, so when they manipulate these variables independently, the effects that we're seeing only occur if you shorten one's step length or reduce their stride length. The greatest effect occurs at the knee, and one of the things that I always talk about is what I call the 5-20 rule, meaning 5 will give you 20. A 5% increase in step rate leads to a 20% reduction in energy absorption at the level of the knee. We also know that increasing cadence 5 to 10% can reduce demands on the hip in the frontal and the transverse plane. As you start to increase your step rate, it can also foster a flatter foot placement. So again, it's just a way to modify load. All right, so we know we can't make forces disappear, but if we can modify the loads at different regions of the lower extremity, well, that's a pretty cool way to get people out of trouble quick, especially if someone has patellofemoral pain. If we can reduce the excursion of their knee during stance and that helps them, well, that's a easy thing to cue.
And by changing their stride length,
correct,
you can improve that. And to decrease or change their stride length, you change their step rate. Yeah,
and it's the easiest way to cue it. So you can use a metronome, you can have people use music. The research shows that endurance athletes in particular auto-entrain to music. Okay. But the research is pretty clear in this 5 to 10% increase in step rate, and that's assuming running velocity is kept constant. Okay.
So basically, say someone had a knee issue.
Yeah.
And if all they had to do was increase their step rate or their cadence by 5 or 10%, that'll reduce the load at the knee.
Correct.
Which could make them be able to run with no issue.
Yeah, it literally, that in and of itself could be the difference between being able to run and not run in terms of getting pushed back.
Not all the time, right? Because it can be more complicated, but it's certainly a huge factor. As you said, the research is showing more and more and more.
Correct.
That is something that has to be considered. So tell us about the app and the idea behind the app. And who would use it and why, who would it be right for?
So, my friend Ben Wapker and I teamed up actually over his 40th birthday celebration. Sorry, I just disclosed your age, but you wear it well. So we were both talking about how there just wasn't anything in terms of running apps to help runners, coaches, clinicians, researchers make use of this simple metric. And if there's ever a hack to running, which I don't think it's that simple, this is the closest thing to it. Okay? So rather than try and accomplish a bunch of different things with this app, we wanted to just do step rate or cadence and do it very well. All right, and also create a really slick and simple user interface. So we actually just launched this.
So I'm going to grab the camera so that we can kind of show what this looks like, and for those who would want to use this.
So again, the first thing that you want to do is to actually take people through an assessment to figure out what their step rate is. Otherwise, we're just sort of throwing darts without looking. So what we encourage users to do is to just basically go to the learn function, and if we go back, there's a learn and a run. So find your cadence. And what it essentially does is tells you to run at a moderate intensity effort, and it'll do a simple test, and you can hold this in your hand. All right, you can strap it on your forearm, you can wear it on your upper arm, and it'll do a 1-minute test. Okay.
So you would be running right now.
I would be running right now. Okay. And this is just relying on the use of an accelerometer. So essentially, we know that the opposite arm and opposite leg are synced up when you're running. So we can get your step rate through arm swing. Okay. And we've taken this through rigorous testing, and we can speak to its reliability as well as its accuracy, which is cool because we have to make sure that what we're measuring is accurate and we're getting consistent data.
Okay.
So long story short,
so that would be like clinically, if I was working with someone or a clinician and you wanted to know what is my step rate when I'm not thinking about it.
Correct.
That would be where you'd use that.
Yeah, and that's a baseline test that you want to do. And you could easily sit there and count the number of contacts over a 30-second period, but there's obviously going to be some measurement error with that. All right, so we want to just sort of eliminate that.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So it'll give you a summary of your step rate, and it'll also show you what 5%, 7.5%, and 10% is, and you can just set those values right off the bat. So when you go to train, the cool thing about this app is that you can set the metronome. So say if someone was running at 164 steps per minute.
Which we would have gotten from the previous step.
Correct. And we want to take them up to, say, 174. What you can do is set the metronome, get an idea of what that sounds like.
Now would this be, I should each like foot
should coincide with that, yeah. Okay. And you could just have people just start training with this right off the bat. Okay.
Just set it there and have them.
Yeah, just to practice. But what we ultimately want to do is foster a learning response. Okay. So if we set this at 174, it's going to give us a countdown. All right. And then you go and you run. Okay. So the beauty of this is that if you fall out of that step rate.
Is this you running right now?
Yeah, this is me running. Trying. If you fall out of that step rate, the metronome automatically kicks in until you adopt the desired step rate, at which point it'll shut off once it realizes that you have it. And you'll see this in a second or hear it. And now it shuts off.
Because now you've synced up, so it goes, I don't need to cue you anymore.
Correct. Okay, and so that's just a really simple way to get people to empower them outside of the clinic. All right, so as a clinician you can use this, as a runner you can use it, and the ultimate goal is to expand the app a little bit so researchers can also start capturing this data, and we'll build in a bunch of other features, but we wanted to just put it out there first, let people use it, give some feedback, pull it back in, and just make it that much better. So
and so you're also doing it with the watch.
Correct. So we think that everything's going to the wrist.
This is like the sixth. This is the big one.
Yeah, and I don't run with that. So we have functionality of this app on the watch, not the learn portion, but the running portion. So if I'm running, this is going to give me haptic feedback, which
vibrate.
Correct.
At the pace that you should be stepping with.
Yeah, so you use a crown or the rotary dial to set your step rate, and again, it goes through the same process. It gives you a 5-second countdown, and if you're out running, okay, and you want to make sure that you're in the right zone, after you set it, it's going to let you know if you fall out of that zone through giving you a ring and a haptic or a vibrational cue. Okay, so very simple app, not trying to conquer the world, but really helping runners make use of step rate, because that's what the research is showing us we should be paying closer attention to.
Got it. So it's an easy way. Yeah, the app only really does a couple things, but it does them very well.
Correct.
And that's all you need it to do, because we're only trying to change ultimately, you're trying to change the length of the step.
Correct. We're trying to reduce it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and this is live now. If you go to runcadence.net, you can access the app there. We're doing promotional pricing. So for the first 1,000 buyers, it's going to be $299, and then it's going to go up to $499. So, and the website is also a great resource, just talking about some of the major benefits, and also lists a lot of the research articles that lend credence to a lot of the statements that I just made. So, so give it a shot. And,
it's certainly something that I tweak a lot when I work with runners.
Yeah.
Which I learned when I took your course.
Awesome.
Was get people to run faster.
Yeah.
And modify the variables, because it's not always, I used to be like, oh, someone has pain when they're running, I need to do like soft tissue work on them. Well, maybe they just need to change how fast they're running, or they're,
Correct.
We can change certain variables about the run that changes loading, that changes the forces. Maybe that's the solution, and it's not a piece of mystery scar tissue that needs to be broken up that's affecting their run, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's certainly a clinically useful thing. And what about performance-wise? Is there a benefit to athletes? Say they don't have any issues running. What would they use this? Would that make sense?
So there was a great paper by Anthony, and I'm going to probably mispronounce his name, Schachhe, Schachhe.
Okay.
And he showed that when you go to increase your running speed from a standstill, you initially do it by increasing your stride length. But once you start getting to higher speeds, you're going to increase your speed through greater turnover. So just sort of getting a window into what that data looks like, all right? So the other thing that I use this a lot with is to control the rate that someone's doing an exercise, and this is especially helpful with tendinopathies.
Okay.
Because if we say 3 sets of 10, you can do that at different speeds. So if you have someone go and perform these exercises to a metronome, you can use this app for that as well. So it's not just specific to running.
Right.
Okay?
You could use the metronome for other things.
Correct.
But for athletes who are really serious about their running performance, it's good to have as many data points as you could have, right?
Correct.
To know what you could be modifying.
Yeah, and moving forward, we'll expand the app or make it a little bit more robust to start capturing all this data, so you can go back and look at it and also compare pre-post. But the main thing is we want to elicit a learning response, and that's why the app is very helpful. And yeah, we use it a lot clinically, which, again, I'm not a big technology person when it comes to working in the clinic unless it's very meaningful.
Yeah.
All right? I think we concern ourselves with a lot of data that we don't know what sense to make of. The research is pretty clear on step rate and its role in helping runners.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
So awesome. So check it out, runcadence.net. And yeah, thanks for having me on the show as usual.
All right, yeah, I'm definitely going to get that and use it, because right now I've just sort of been using it in a less easy way, like manually versus using why not use technology if it's available? Yeah, so if you guys want to follow Run Cadence, there's a couple places you guys can keep in touch with them. On Instagram at Run Cadence, and Twitter at Run Cadence app, and then the website is runcadence.net.
Correct.
So make sure to check that out, especially if you're dealing with runners. And if you're not modifying cadence as a part of your treatment or working with the athlete, I think you're missing a big component of that. So this is a great, easy way. And if you're using it for business, it's a business expense, so you might as well take tax advantage. So that's what we got for you guys this week on Move It Fix Monday. If you don't already follow the Move It Fix on Instagram, make sure to go to instagram.com/Move It Fix. And you can also find me on Twitter at the Move It Fix. I'll see you guys next week.